Welcome, 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 you beautiful, wonderful people. It's been a while. I know it's not had a new fresh episode. Yes, my consistency is slack, but I'm back. I'm back with a really interesting subject here. This is a Hodge report that was it's the Arts Council review. I've turned it into a podcast with a conversation with two other people. It's all obviously my information, it's all my ideas, and it's how the Hodge report is pitted against future creatives. So enjoy.
Welcome back. We are really thrilled to have you joining us for another custom-tailored deep dive today.
Yeah, it's great to be here. This is definitely a heavy one.
It really is. We are wading into a crisis that is quietly just shaking the very foundation of the UK's arts and cultural sector right now.
Shaking it to its core, honestly.
Right. And we have two incredibly different sources on the table for this. Together, they present a fascinating crossroads for the future of the industry.
Two vastly different blueprints for survival.
Exactly. On one side, we have this extensive, highly detailed independent review of the government's arts funding body, Arts Council England.
Which we'll just refer to as ACE today.
Right, ACE. So this review is conducted by Baroness Margaret Hodge, and it provides a pretty sobering look at a sprawling institution that is just struggling to keep the arts afloat.
Struggling might be putting it mildly.
Yeah, fair enough. And then on the other side, we have a disruptive, tech-driven manifesto written by Kwesi Johnson.
Introducing his framework called Future Creatives.
Yes, and his work outlines a decentralized, grassroots alternative to this exact same crisis.
It really is a tale of two entirely different approaches. The Hodge report diagnoses these deep systemic issues within traditional public funding models,
Emphasizing structural reform at the state level.
Right. Meanwhile, Kwesi Johnson's manifesto argues that the industry literally cannot afford to wait for those slow institutional reforms to take shape.
He proposes solutions that leverage decentralized technology to empower creatives and venues right now.
Today, not 10 years from now.
Which brings us to our mission for you today. We want to help you understand not just why the traditional arts funding model is currently collapsing,
Because it absolutely is.
but to thoroughly compare these two paths forward. We are looking at the slow, turning wheels of institutional reform on one hand versus immediate decentralized solutions.
Solutions that artists can literally implement today.
Okay, let's unpack this. I want to start with the frankly bleak picture painted by the Hodge report. The statistics here are sobering.
They are brutal to read.
Public spending on culture in the UK right now is just 0.25% of GDP.
Which is the lowest among comparable European countries.
The absolute lowest. To put that into perspective for you, the report notes that just one state in Germany, Berlin, allocates more to cultural funding annually than the combined budgets of the entire national portfolio of ACE, plus the Mayor of London's culture program.
What's fascinating here is how that severe lack of funding has exposed the systemic friction within the institutions themselves, the ones meant to distribute it.
Because when money is tight, the cracks really show.
Exactly. The Hodge report zeroes in on ACE's 10-year strategy, which is called Let's Create.
Now, that was originally designed with noble goals, right, around diversity and inclusion.
Right, the intentions were good. But the report reveals that it has inadvertently become a bureaucratic straitjacket.
Stifling the exact creativity it was supposed to foster.
Because the focus shifted so heavily onto meeting rigid instrumentalist targets that the actual pursuit of artistic excellence got completely sidelined.
Yeah, the report actually documents instances where applicants reached the end of an extensive funding application and realized
They hadn't even been asked what they were proposing to put on stage.
it's wild. Imagine being a creative in the trenches. Your full-time job morphs from artistic direction to purely bureaucratic compliance.
You're stuck in a system where you are spending way more time ticking diversity and community engagement boxes than actually creating art.
And doing all of it on a universally criticized software system called Grantium.
A system the report specifically notes has been failing under the load.
Right, so people are spending their precious time and often using portions of the very public money they receive just to hire grant writers.
Just to navigate the bureaucracy. A venue director's role just becomes dealing with paperwork to secure a shrinking slice of public money.
And that administrative burden is disproportionately hurting the exact people this system claims it wants to help.
The individual freelancers.
Mm.
The smaller community organizations.
The report highlights a severe burnout crisis here. Nearly 80% of culture workers have considered leaving the sector entirely.
Due to overwork and financial pressure, visual artists are earning a median annual income of just £12,500.
It's unsustainable. And the system requires them to jump through complex hoops, providing the exact same data and reporting metrics as multi-million-pound institutions.
It's a one-size-fits-all approach that, in reality, fits almost no one.
The environment is incredibly dire. But the Hodge report does lay out a comprehensive roadmap for reform.
Let's look at those institutional fixes, because there are some structurally sound policy ideas in there.
Yeah, she recommends introducing a 5-year funding cycle for national portfolio organizations instead of the current 3-year cycle.
Which would alleviate that constant grinding administrative panic of reapplying.
She also suggests the government create a £250 million endowment fund.
Similar to the model Nesta successfully utilized before they ceased funding the arts.
Right. She wants to adjust tax reliefs to cover the brutal costs of touring, specifically addressing international visas post-Brexit.
And she even suggests a mechanism where ACE can capture commercial success.
All right, so if a subsidized theater produces a hit show that transfers to the West End, they pay royalties back into the public pot.
Those recommendations are logically sound. They would undoubtedly stabilize the ecosystem if implemented effectively, but they all run into one fatal flaw.
Time.
Exactly. ACE is an incredibly complex institution accountable to central government.
So implementing these overarching bureaucratic overhauls,
Securing £250 million for an endowment in this fiscal climate,
lobbying for changes to tax legislation.
it will take years. Altering the cultural and operational habits of a massive state-funded institution simply does not happen overnight.
Which brings us to a really critical realization for you as a listener. Venues and organizations don't have years to wait for policy shifts.
They have failing infrastructure today. Artists are leaving in droves today.
Operational capital is drying up, and waiting around for the very institutions that created this bureaucratic bottleneck to fix it.
Is a highly precarious strategy. As Kwesi Johnson points out in his manifesto, relying entirely on centralized institutions to hold all the power is exactly what got the industry into this vulnerable situation.
Right. Look where it has got us.
Precisely. Right now, the industry is essentially powerless to implement any of the Hodge recommendations themselves.
They're totally reliant on a sweeping government institution to slowly change course.
That structural dependency is what makes our second source so compelling. Kwesi Johnson brings a completely different perspective.
Drawing on his time working at the Young Vic.
He highlights that the old, reliable survival model for venues is just dead across the board.
The traditional model was roughly a third of revenue from ticket sales, a third from philanthropy, and a third from public funding.
But post-COVID, compounded by the cost of living crisis, all three of those pillars are crumbling simultaneously.
So his solution is to bypass that old model entirely. And here's where it gets really interesting. Kwesi introduces this framework called crowd commissioning.
To fully grasp crowd commissioning, we first need to clarify the vital difference between it and traditional crowdfunding.
Because they sound very similar on the surface.
They do, but crowdfunding is essentially asking the public to back pre-existing ideas. An artist says, here is a project I've already conceived, give me capital to produce it.
The power of curation still sits with the creator, and the financial risk is totally front-loaded.
Exactly. Crowd commissioning completely flips that dynamic.
It prioritizes demand first. The community, the fans, the local supporters, they actually propose the experiences they want to see.
They collectively pool their resources by purchasing digital tokens. And only then do they invite directors or artists to deliver the project.
Kwesi refers to it as prompt engineering for creativity in the real world.
That analogy perfectly captures the mechanism. It provides pre-validated demand.
Sorry for the interruption, but it's for your benefit. If you're interested and you're enjoying this episode, if you're interested in knowing how you can turn your information into podcasts like this, get in touch, drop me a DM in the comments, etc., etc. You just get in touch and I'll share it with you. Let's get back to the episode.
Before an artist or a venue spends a single hour on pre-production or marketing, they already know there is a committed audience willing to pay.
Because that specific audience actually commissioned the work. It completely shifts the financial risk away from the theater.
Removing the anxiety of hoping people will buy tickets to a show you've already spent a fortune producing.
And the underlying infrastructure making all of this possible is DeFi.
Decentralized finance.
Yeah.
Specifically relying on the execution of smart contracts.
Let's delve into how these mechanics actually work in practice. Because while it sounds theoretical, this technology is actively being deployed.
Let's look at the philanthropist example Kwesi provides.
Yes, this scenario perfectly illustrates the utility of a smart contract within a venue's existing ledger. Imagine a local philanthropist wants to inject immediate liquidity into a struggling regional theater.
Under Kwesi's DeFi model, that philanthropist can purchase a specific seat in the venue for the entire season at a discounted bulk rate.
Giving the venue an immediate cash injection.
And the philanthropist isn't doing it to attend every single performance, right? It's a form of targeted arts patronage.
Exactly. But here is where the smart contract fundamentally changes the interaction. When a regular audience member goes to the digital box office to buy a ticket,
And they happen to select that specific seat, funded by the philanthropist.
the smart contract automatically executes on the back end.
Okay, but let me play devil's advocate here for a moment. Smart contracts sound incredibly efficient in a vacuum. But what happens when a show is abruptly canceled or a lead actor falls ill?
Does this automated system introduce a new administrative nightmare for the box office trying to unpick digital tokens?
Exactly my concern.
That is the exact kind of systemic friction the industry worries about, but it represents a misunderstanding of how smart contracts function.
How so?
The contract dictates the terms definitively. If the criteria for the event say the date and time are not met, the smart contract can be programmed to automatically reverse the transaction.
Refunding the tokens or fiat currency to the buyer's wallet instantaneously.
Instantly. There is zero manual processing required from the box office staff.
That definitely addresses the cancellation risk. But let's go back to the philanthropist seat. The ticket buyer purchases the subsidized seat and the contract executes. What is the actual benefit delivered?
The contract recognizes the purchase and automatically grants that specific fan-programmable perks.
Like what?
Perhaps they receive an invitation to an open dress rehearsal, exclusive backstage access, or a digital collectible that grants a discount at the bar.
And the system is entirely self-executing. The box office staff doesn't have to cross-reference spreadsheets, figure out who gets a loyalty reward, or manually trigger emails.
The programmable money handles all the logistics.
If we tie this directly back to the Hodge report, Hodge is practically pleading with ACE to figure out ways to improve philanthropy and audience engagement.
She wants them to overhaul their systems and build entirely new capabilities to foster local giving.
But this DeFi solution achieves those exact policy goals immediately. It turns a standard ticket transaction into dynamic community building.
Giving the fan a unique experience, rewarding the venue with upfront capital, and honoring the philanthropist's contribution.
All instantly, with zero added administrative bloat.
Which naturally raises a critical question. If this decentralized tech can deliver these solutions today, why isn't the entire sector adopting it?
Because it is vital to emphasize that the user experience for the audience member is practically unchanged.
Right. Audience members can still pay using traditional fiat currency or a standard credit card. The system handles the conversion on the back end.
That touches on another hurdle, though: tech literacy. Asking a local theater to implement smart contracts isn't without friction. You're asking an industry that struggles with basic grant portals to suddenly embrace Web3.
That is a valid concern. But Kwesi addresses it by stressing that box office workers do not need to become software developers.
The DeFi system is just designed as a parallel plugin that runs alongside their existing ticketing software.
The heavy lifting, the blockchain verification, the token minting, is handled entirely by the platform. The staff merely uses the interface to set the parameters.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the reluctance to adopt these tools often stems from a deep systemic aversion to new technology.
Kwesi shares a highly telling anecdote about his wife selling early internet services back in the 90s.
She would pitch the utility of the internet to established businesses, and their response was consistently, "Why do we need the internet? We have fax machines."
The arts industry is currently suffering from a profound case of status quo bias.
Waiting around to be rescued by the slow-moving oil tanker that is ACE.
There is an institutional tendency to put faith in an established system, even when it is demonstrably failing, simply because the mechanics of the failure are familiar.
It feels safer to wait for an overarching authority to hopefully rescue them, rather than risk a decentralized alternative.
As Kwesi notes, it is incredibly hard to listen to new ideas when all you can hear is the sirens of your own emergency.
But the solutions for the failure of subsidized creative industries are likely not going to be found inside those same failing structures.
You have to look at external paradigms. That's why Kwesi and the Cultural Assembly have created a waitlist.
A low-pressure mechanism for organizations to raise their hand and say, we are tired of plugging holes in sinking ships. We want to build better architecture.
And the most crucial element of this entire Future Creatives framework is where the locus of power ultimately resides.
DeFi allows the industry to self-rescue.
It facilitates a direct, open flow of capital and curation between the fans, artists, and backers. It bypasses the institutional bureaucracy entirely.
So the industry gets the exact benefits. Baroness Hodge recommends better resilience, stronger ties, but the power does not return to the centralized institutions.
Because look where giving all the power to centralized institutions has gotten the sector.
Exhausted artists, failing software portals, and a funding ecosystem on the brink of collapse.
This decentralized model ensures that fans and artists genuinely get what they want. And if it doesn't exist, they have the agency to co-curate it themselves.
It represents a profound philosophical shift from state dependency to localized agency.
To be clear, the institutions should still exist, and Hodge's structural reforms should absolutely be pursued for long-term health.
But regional venues don't have to wait for an act of parliament to save them. They can implement smart contracts and crowd commissioning right now to stabilize their own economies.
Exactly.
So what does this all mean for you navigating this space? We have covered a tremendous amount of ground today.
Analyzing two fundamentally different approaches to a shared crisis.
You've seen the stark choice facing the arts sector. Wait for an independent review to slowly alter the course of a giant government institution.
A path heavily burdened by years of entrenched bureaucracy.
Or embrace decentralized DeFi technology, a path that instantly empowers artists and audiences today, allowing them to bypass the waitlist and go straight to the community.
It boils down to spending weeks writing an application to justify why your art matters, versus letting your community directly fund the art they already know matters.
And I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to mull over as we wrap up this deep dive.
Let's hear it.
The Hodge report specifically highlighted a
So if you're
severe
interested
capital
in
crisis.
exploring
It
some of
noted that
these
physical arts
methodologies,
venues have
these,
failing
techniques that we're
boilers,
talking about,
crumbling
make sure
infrastructure,
you join the
and
wait
face
list, 'cause right now we're
literal
gathering
demolition.
people that
The
really
maintenance
wanna dive
backlogs
in
are
and
severe.
try
So
and
if
really
decentralized
get deep
communities can
into
use
what
crowd
it's gonna-
commissioning
what it
to
is that we're
successfully
creating.
pool
So join the
capital
wait list.
and
That's
design
gonna
the
get you to
performances
front
they
of the
want to see.
queue. So you can signal
Could
that
this
you're ready for
exact
that by
DeFi model
commenting
eventually
ready
be scaled up?
in the comments.
Could we use smart contracts and community tokenomics to bypass these crumbling heritage buildings entirely?
Wow.
Imagine a landscape where crowds don't just fund the art on stage, but they actually fund, design, and co-own completely new purpose-built physical venues from the ground up.
If the foundational technology is already functioning, it's absolutely possible.
Why not? Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the future of the arts, and we will catch you next time.